Hello, well it's good to be back after a really exciting trip at the Diamond Jubilee in London, an opportunity to celebrate Her Majesty's 60 years on the throne and to be part of the flotilla, the 1,000 boats that went up the Thames, an opportunity to go and see the Queen herself at Buckingham Palace, and also to be at that special Thanksgiving service at St Paul's. So all in all, a wonderful time there in the UK. And then I went off to both Brussels to see a number of leaders in the European Parliament, and ultimately over to Germany to see Angela Merkel, who's leading really, I think, the charge as we look at the financial problems in Europe. You've obviously seen probably last weekend that there was 100 billion euros put up to bail out the Spanish banking system. What is clear from my time in Europe is that there's a deep commitment to see the Eurozone maintained, to ensure that there isn't a deep recession in Europe, and to ensure that it remains intact. But this weekend will be, amongst other things, quite a test as both Greece votes and you have the French elections as well. So a lot happening on June 17th. Look, if you're wondering what's on my jacket, this is for Elder Abuse Day, which takes place on Friday. I raise it only because this week you've probably seen quite a lot of debate going on about superannuation. And you may even be asking the question, well, has National got the right policy to maintain the entitlement age of superannuation at 65 years of age? Our view is yes, and let me run through a few of those reasons why. Firstly, you'll hear people say that raising the age to 67 will solve our problems and that will be the panacea to the issues that we face. Well, for a start off, no political party is arguing that the age should be raised any earlier than 2020, and the recommendation from the Retirement Commissioner is that we raise the age by 2 months for every year. So by about 2033, the age would then be 67. What you probably don't know is that has a much smaller impact on the overall cost of superannuation than you might think. It's about 0.7% of GDP. So is 0.7% a lot? Well, when the government came into office back in 2008, Treasury predicted that by 2026, debt in New Zealand would be 60% of GDP. In fact, with all of the changes that we've undertaken in the last 4 years, not only will debt to GDP be 0% by 2026, so we'll be in a much stronger position to afford all of the issues that relate to the ageing of the population, because they're not solely restricted to superannuation. There's health and other expenditure as well. But we've saved about 3% of GDP. So the proposition put up by the Labour Party is to spend a lot more money today, to raise the age of super and make you work longer. There is another way through that, and that is to be careful with our expenditure and to grow our economy. Secondly, if you think we're a bit isolated and very expensive, well, we do spend about 5% of GDP on superannuation today. That's due to go to 8% of GDP at the very height of the baby boomers. That'll still put us the 7th cheapest country in the world. And just to give you an example, in the OECD, should I say, just to give you an example, countries that will cost a lot more than us are Austria and Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland and the United Kingdom. So they are all running at much higher costs, and in fact many of them, just to give you an example, let's take someone like Germany that we see as a powerhouse economy that everyone says is doing pretty well. Their current cost of pensions is 10.2% of GDP and ours is 5%, and even if we make no changes whatsoever, ours will be 8%. So yes, it's a cost, like it is in so many other areas, and yes, we need to think about how we manage all of those issues. But it's not the single biggest issue that the government faces today by any stretch of the imagination. And those other political parties argue that it is, actually not focused on the issues that make the big difference to New Zealand as we stand here. So there's an option. We have said we're going to keep the age at 65, we're going to manage the economy well, we're going to make those savings and run a lot less debt, and other political parties want to spend a lot of money and make you work longer. And that's your choice. That's what we took to the election in 2011, and I'd strongly suggest it be what we'll be taking to the election in 2014. But don't believe the spin that there's only one way through, and that's lifting the age. It's not true. It doesn't save you as much money as you think, and if you really want to cut that liability, then we have to cut both the extent of those who can apply for New Zealand superannuation and its generosity. And they are spaces that I do not support, because I think we should live within our means. If we do that, we can afford the superannuation scheme that we have. And despite all the spin that you read and hear, actually that's the facts behind the numbers.